April 1986, Augusta, Georgia. Jack Nicklaus is 46 years old, and the newspapers have already written him off. Then, on the back nine on Sunday, he shoots 30. Birdie, eagle. Birdie, birdie. He wins his 18th major championship in front of a gallery that sounds like a stadium, holding a strange, oversized aluminum putter that will sell 350,000 copies in a single year. It is the greatest comeback golf has ever seen. But the real story of that Sunday is not Jack Nicklaus. It is the name stamped on that putter. MacGregor, the oldest club maker in America, the company that armed Ben Hogan, Byron Nelson, Tommy Armour, and Jack himself. Its players won more than 50 major championships. No equipment company in history comes close. And 23 years after that putt dropped, the whole company was sold off for less than $2 million. Less than one house. Now, there is a simple villain in this story, a bowling conglomerate called Brunswick, which bought MacGregor and bled it. Except Brunswick didn't kill MacGregor. Nobody who owned it did. The company was killed by one decision, one mistake, made on a single day, decades before the end. And the greatest golfer who ever lived spent his own fortune trying to undo it, and couldn't. To find the mistake, you have to go back. Past Nicklaus, past Hogan, back to 1829, Dayton, Ohio. A small company starts turning wood on lathes. They don't make golf clubs. Nobody in America makes golf clubs. They make shoe lasts, the wooden foot forms that cobblers shape shoes around. It is about as unglamorous as manufacturing gets. But it teaches them one thing better than almost anyone in the country: how to carve dense hardwood to a perfect shape, thousands of times in a row. For nearly 70 years, that's the whole story. Shoes, wood, Ohio. Then in the 1890s, a partner named Edward Canby discovers a strange Scottish game that is just arriving in America: golf. Canby looks at the imported clubs coming over from Scotland. Expensive, scarce, months to arrive. Then he looks around his own factory, rooms full of lathes, craftsmen who spend all day shaping hardwood, and he looks at the wood itself. Persimmon. The same American hardwood they use for shoe lasts. Hard, tight-grained, almost impossible to crack. In 1897, the shoe company starts making golf clubs. They are among the very first in America to do it. Nobody knows it yet, but Persimmon will become the sound of golf for the next 90 years. And it starts here, in a shoe factory in Dayton, Ohio. The name on the clubs gets shortened and sharpened until it becomes one word: MacGregor. By the 1930s, MacGregor is a serious club maker, but it is about to become a dynasty, and the man who builds it is a former caddy named Tony Penna. Penna is a tour player, but his real genius is spotting talent and shaping club heads. MacGregor puts him on the road with one job: find the best young players in America and put MacGregor in their hands. He does not miss. He signs a skinny, struggling pro from Texas who hasn't won anything yet. His name is Ben Hogan, and the contract is worth a few $100s a year. It might be the best money any golf company ever spent. He signs Byron Nelson, he signs Jimmy DeMerit. Tommy Armour, the Silver Scot, puts his name on MacGregor irons, and those irons become some of the best-selling clubs on earth. On the women's side, MacGregor signs Louise Suggs, one of the greatest players who will ever live. Hogan, Nelson, DeMerit, Armour, Suggs. There has never been a staff like it. Not before, not since. And Penna doesn't just sign the players. He builds their weapons. He sits with Hogan and Nelson, grinding and reshaping heads by hand until they're exactly right. In 1939, MacGregor launches the line that will define it: the tourney. Hand-finished persimmon woods and forged blades built for the best players alive. The clubs the pros win with on Sunday become the clubs every serious amateur in America wants by Monday. By the end of the 1940s, MacGregor calls itself the largest golf company in the world. In the pro shops of America, MacGregor isn't a brand, it's the brand. Walk the factory floor in 1949 and you can smell it. Sawdust and lacquer and hot glue. Rough persimmon blocks come in at one end, dense and pale. Turners spin them down on lathes their fathers ran before them. Finishers rub stain into the grain by hand, coat after coat, until the head glows like a piece of furniture. A man holds each finished driver up to the light, turning it, looking for the one flaw that means it doesn't leave the building. These are not people making a product. These are people guarding a standard. Golfers don't just play these clubs. They keep them for life, and they pass them to their sons. A shoe company from Dayton is now the most respected name in golf. And then, in 1958, the mistake happens. The Brunswick Corporation comes calling. Brunswick is a giant. Bowling alleys, billiard tables, boat engines. In the 1950s, bowling is exploding across America, and Brunswick is swimming in money. It goes shopping for sporting goods companies the way other men buy neckties, and the owners of MacGregor say yes. That's it. That's the mistake. It doesn't look like one. It looks like a payday and a rich parent and money for factories and tour players. But understand what actually changed hands that day. For 60 years, MacGregor had been run by people whose product was the golf club. From that day forward, it would be run by people whose product was the balance sheet. Every owner for the next 50 years, and there will be many, will buy the name. Not one of them will buy the idea. At first, nobody notices, because in 1961, MacGregor signs a 21-year-old from Columbus, Ohio, who is turning professional. A heavy-set kid with a crew cut and the most powerful swing anyone has ever seen, Jack Nicklaus. An Ohio kid signing with the Ohio company. It feels like destiny. For the next quarter century, Jack wins with MacGregor in his bag. The Masters, the US Open, the Open Championship, the PGA. The greatest career in the history of golf, built swing by swing with a MacGregor Persimmon driver. From the outside, these are the glory years. But inside the company, the mistake is compounding like interest. Brunswick's bowling boom collapses in the early 1960s, and suddenly the parent is drowning in debt. Hundreds of millions of it. Every division gets squeezed. Budgets shrink. Corners get cut. The craftsmen who hand-finish tourney woods are pushed to go faster, cheaper, simpler. Cheap department store sets start going out the door wearing the same name as the clubs in Jack's bag. Picture the same factory floor 15 years after we last saw it. The lathes are still spinning, but the man who held every driver up to the light is gone, and nobody replaced him. The stain goes on in one coat now, not 5. Quotas hang where the standards used to. The old finishers retire one by one, and each time a little bit of what the word MacGregor means walks out the door with them. And here's the thing about a reputation like MacGregor's. It takes 60 years to build. It takes about 10 to spend. Every cheap set with that name on it makes a quiet withdrawal from an account nobody is refilling. Tony Penna watches all of it, the man who signed Hogan and Nelson, the man whose hands shaped the tourney. In 1967, he quits, walks out, and starts his own club company, taking the old ways with him. Penna would not be there to see what came next. And maybe that was mercy, because the day he walked out, the soul of MacGregor went with him. The body would keep moving for another 40 years, but the story only runs one direction from here. By the 1970s, MacGregor is a name coasting on memory. The clubs are fine, just fine, and fine is fatal in a business built on being the best. Brunswick, bored and bleeding, sells the company at the end of the decade to a holding company. The kind of owner that doesn't make things, it just holds them. And then, in 1982, something remarkable happens. Jack Nicklaus buys MacGregor. Understand how rare this is. Tour players endorse companies, they cash the checks, they wear the hat, and when a better check comes along, they change hats. They do not buy the company, but Jack does, because this isn't an endorsement to him. This is the company that sent a club maker to work with him when he was a teenager. These are the clubs that were in his hands for every one of those majors. If MacGregor dies, a piece of his own story dies with it. He leads a group of investors, takes control, and sets out to undo 1958, restore the quality, restore the pride. And for one Sunday in April 1986, it looks like he's done it. Now you know what was really happening in that opening scene. The 46-year-old legend charging up the back nine at Augusta wasn't just winning a golf tournament, he was the owner, carrying his dying company on his shoulders, putting with its strange new putter on national television. The PUT drops. The gallery erupts. The orders flood in faster than the factory can pour the heads. 350,000 putters in a year. For a few months, MacGregor is the hottest name in golf again, and every pro shop in America has a waiting list. It should be the comeback. It's not. It's the last flash of light before the dark. Because that same year, quietly, Jack sells control of MacGregor to a Finnish conglomerate called Amir. Think about how bad the numbers must have been. The company just had the greatest free advertisement in the history of golf. The most famous man in the sport, winning the most famous tournament in the sport, with its product in his hands, and it still wasn't enough. Even with the most famous putter on earth, the math doesn't work. And to see why, you have to look at what the rest of golf is doing. In the early 1980s, a small company starts selling drivers with heads made of steel instead of wood. The purists laugh. They call them metal woods, and they call them a gimmick. Then average golfers hit them and the ball goes farther and straighter and nobody's laughing anymore. That company is tailor-made and it is about to conquer the game. Ping is doing the same thing to irons, casting forgiving cavity backs by the million while the purists cling to forged blades. A few years later, Callaway will take the metal wood and turn it into the biggest selling driver on earth. Look at those companies. They faced the exact same wave MacGregor faced. They rode it. MacGregor stood guard against it. The King of Persimmon and the Temple of the Forged Blade, the two things MacGregor did better than anyone on earth, were the exact two things golfers were abandoning. Its whole identity, 90 years of it, was carved out of a wood the game no longer wanted. Retooling for metal takes enormous money. And money is exactly what a company passed between owners never has. Here's what I find genuinely painful about this part of the story. The people at MacGregor knew. The engineers saw the metal wave coming, the same as everyone, but every time the company needed to bet big on the future, it had a new owner looking to sell, or an old owner looking to squeeze. That's what 1958 really cost. Not money, the ability to choose. In 1992, Jack Nicklaus leaves MacGregor for good and starts his own equipment company instead. Read that again. The man who bought MacGregor to save it walks away and builds a new company from nothing, rather than keep fighting for the old one. When the hero gives up on the rescue is over. What follows is a carousel that barely anyone bothers to watch. Amir buys MacGregor's ancient rival Wilson, and suddenly the crown jewel of American golf is the second favorite child in its own house. Amir sells. An investor group takes over, then another. Each new owner is smaller than the last. Each one holds a press conference and promises a revival. Each one quietly sells to the next. The engineers keep designing genuinely good clubs through all of it. It doesn't matter. In a war of titanium drivers and marketing budgets bigger than MacGregor's entire company, showing up with a hand-stained Persimmon heritage is like bringing a love letter to a knife fight. In 2007, there's one final swing. Greg Norman, the Shark himself, comes aboard as a major shareholder. One more legend trying one more rescue. 2 years later, the financial crisis hits, the credit dries up, and it's over. February 2009. MacGregor stops operating. The assets of the oldest golf club maker in America, the company of Hogan, Nelson, Armour, and Nicklaus, are sold to a discount retail chain for roughly $1.75 million. The buyers don't want the factory, they don't want the craftsman, they want the only thing left with any value: the name. And the name goes where dead golf names go. Onto shrink-wrapped, boxed starter sets stacked by the door of the sporting goods store next to the shoe department, which, if you think about it, is exactly where this story began. So there it is. Not 2009, not the metal wood, not even Brunswick, the obvious villain we met at the start. The mistake was 1958, the day the people who loved golf clubs handed the company to people who loved numbers. Everything after was just that one decision, playing out in slow motion for 50 years. Brunswick spent the reputation, the carousel starved the future, and when the game changed, there was nobody left in the building with the power to change with it. Jack Nicklaus saw it. He grew up on these clubs. He won 18 majors with them. He spent his own fortune trying to reverse a decision made when he was still an amateur in Columbus. And what he learned is the hardest lesson in this story. You can buy back a company. You cannot buy back the 50 years it lost. More than 50 major championships, 180 years, one mistake, $1.75 million at the end. Somewhere out there in a garage in Ohio or a basement in Texas, there's a MacGregor tourney Persimmon driver sitting in an old leather bag. The finish is still deep, the grain is still perfect. It was built by hand by someone in Dayton who believed it would last forever. The club did. And on some worn-out videotape, that putt at Augusta still drops and the crowd still roars for a putter made by a company that had already been given away. If you ever pured a tourney Persimmon off the first tee, or grew up caddying for a father who swore his MacGregor blades were the last real golf clubs ever made, hit subscribe. We're building the archive these brands never got, because the men who shaped that wood in Dayton deserve to be remembered properly, and the next story we're telling was made for you.